Welcome everyone. Coded Conversations. Unlocking the secrets of learning on your terms. Whether you're prepping for a presentation or just, super curious about a new field.
Or maybe even just love learning new things.
Exactly. And to guide us on this journey, we've got a whole stack of fascinating sources. Articles, definitions, some lively forum discussions.
Even insights from those who've mastered the art of teaching themselves.
So think autodidacts, those self-taught gurus.
Right. But it's more than just defining what self-directed learning is.
It's about figuring out how W to make it work for you.
Right, exactly. The H-how-W and the W-H-Y. Like, can anyone become this super learner? Or are some people just, I don't know, wired for it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Before we get all philosophical, maybe we should start with the basics. What exactly does self-directed learning even mean?
Well, one of our sources, it's called Visual SP. They define it as, let me see. It's a learning strategy where learners are in the driver's seat.
Okay, so they're calling the shots on their own education.
Yeah. They figure out what they need to learn,
Yeah.
set their own goals, choose their strategies, and even, get this, evaluate their own performance.
Whoa, hold on. That sounds like a lot of responsibility.
It is.
It's pretty empowering, but also kind of intimidating, to be honest.
I agree, yeah. It's like, imagine being handed the keys to, like, a super fast race car.
Okay, I'm picturing this.
And someone just says, okay, go. You're in charge now.
Room.
Exactly. It's like, right. But you better know what you're doing. Otherwise, crash.
Yikes. So self-directed learning is not for the faint of heart.
Well, it's definitely a different approach than the traditional classroom setup.
Right. In a classroom, you've got the teacher who tells you what to learn, how to learn it, and then boom, grades you on it.
Yeah. And with self-directed learning, you're kind of all those roles at once.
Yeah.
You become the teacher, the curriculum designer, and, yeah, the one giving yourself the grade.
Whoa. So it's all about taking ownership.
Yeah.
No more passive listening in a lecture hall. You're the one actively creating your own learning path.
Yes.
But let's be real. Doesn't sound easy.
It's not always a walk in the park.
Our source, Visual SP, they actually point out some real challenges, things that can make self-directed learning feel more like an uphill climb.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about those roadblocks. What are some of the things that might trip us up on this solo learning adventure?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones, right off the bat, is not even knowing where to start.
Oh, I feel that. Especially when you're diving into a brand new field, it's like information overload.
Totally. It's a sea of information, and you're like, which way do I swim?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you're trying to be efficient with your time, right? You don't want to waste hours on stuff that's not even relevant.
Exactly, yeah. It's got to be focused, targeted.
Otherwise, you're just wandering around this giant library, no Dewey Decimal System, no librarian to help you out. Chaos.
And then on top of that, there's the whole procrastination thing.
Ugh, don't get me started. I am the queen of procrastination.
It happens. But yeah, when there's no set deadlines, no teacher looking over your shoulder,
It's way too easy to be like, I'll study tomorrow.
tomorrow turns into next week, next month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what separates the casual learners from the, what did you call them, autodidacts.
Yeah, maybe. Those who actually pushed through all that.
It takes serious willpower.
Like, those folks, they're able to overcome these hurdles. Those are the ones who are really mastering self-directed learning.
It's like a test. Builds character.
I like that, yeah. A crucible.
Forging those self-directed learning superpowers. Okay, before we get too carried away, we keep using this term autodidact.
True, true.
What exactly does that even mean?
Well, vocabulary.com, they put it pretty simply. An autodidact is basically a self-taught person.
So someone who's like going rogue, learning stuff outside the traditional classroom.
Yeah, exactly. They're learning without needing that formal teacher or institution.
Okay, so it's not just about like watching YouTube tutorials instead of going to class.
No, it's deeper than that.
It's about that mindset, that drive to learn, to seek out knowledge, to be in charge. But honestly, can you really get a deep understanding of something without that, formal instruction?
Well, history's full of examples of folks who did exactly that.
Really?
Yeah. And if you look at these successful autodidacts, one thing that really stands out is their passion. They're driven.
Makes sense. Got to be motivated if you're going it alone.
Right. Take Joseph Villanueva, for example.
Who's that?
He's actually featured in a Forbes article we have. This guy's a successful entrepreneur, built his career from the ground up, no fancy degree.
Wait, a successful entrepreneur, no degree. How'd he pull that off?
Well, it wasn't all smooth sailing. He ended up having to teach himself, get this, the legal system,
What?
to defend himself.
In court. Was he in trouble?
He was a whistleblower, went up against his former employer,
Wow. Talk about high stakes.
and he won. But it all started with him taking the time to learn the law, all on his own.
That's pretty incredible. He turned a challenge into this huge learning opportunity, and that self-reliance, that's pretty empowering.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to another strength we see in autodidacts. They tend to be pretty innovative thinkers.
Creative types.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. They're not stuck in the same box as traditional education.
Right. They're free to explore, to experiment.
Exactly. And that can lead to some really outside-the-box thinking, making connections others might miss.
Like they're charting their own course through the world of knowledge.
I like that.
Yeah.
And some of history's most famous innovators, they fit this mold. Like Nikola Tesla, the guy who basically changed the way we use electricity.
Tesla, oh yeah, he was a genius.
A lot of his work, the AC system especially, that was him being largely self-taught.
Wow. And didn't Steve Jobs, the Apple guy, also have a pretty unconventional approach to, well, everything?
He did. Super intuitive with technology, never afraid to question the status quo.
A real rebel.
And then you have Marie Curie. Groundbreaking scientist, did amazing work with radioactivity, but she faced a ton of challenges, especially being a woman in a very male-dominated field at the time.
It's incredible, though, these autodidacts. You've got Tesla, Jobs, Curie, such different fields, but they all share that drive, to explore, to experiment, to push boundaries. So what is it about self-directed learning that kind of breeds these innovators?
Well, when you're learning on your own terms, you're constantly having to be evaluating different ideas, seeking out new info, figuring how it all connects in a way that makes sense to you.
Right. Not just memorizing facts from a textbook.
Exactly. It's like building your own mental model of the world instead of just accepting someone else's.
And I bet that mental flexibility helps with another autodidact strength, right?
Yeah.
Adaptability.
Totally. They're used to having to figure stuff out, even when resources are limited.
Resourceful, too. It's like necessity is the mother of invention, right?
No teacher to guide you. Gotta get creative.
But earlier we were talking about some people being like naturally wired for self-directed learning. Is there any science behind that?
Well, there's an article on Arconnect, and it talks about this researcher, Jonathan Y. from Duke University. He studies autodidacts, the psychology behind it all.
Ooh, the psychology of self-learning.
Yeah, and he says, while having a high IQ can definitely help.
So the brainiacs have an edge.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
But Y says the bigger factor, the one that really fuels successful autodidacts, is passion.
Okay, so passion trumps IQ. That's good news for the rest of us.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if you don't have, a genius level IQ, if you've got the passion, the drive.
You can still rock the self-directed learning game.
You got it. And Y also points out another important quality. It's just a natural eagerness to learn, a real thirst for knowledge.
So not just learning to pass a test.
They're curious. They want to understand. And that extends way beyond any classroom.
Makes sense. They're driven by something deeper.
And that inner motivation, I think that's what separates those who just dabble in self-learning
from those who really excel.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the strengths, what makes these autodidacts tick. But there's always that debate, isn't there?
Which one?
Formal education versus going rogue. Is one really better than the other?
Ah, the age-old question.
Yeah.
I actually found a Reddit forum where people are going back and forth on this.
Ooh, a Reddit debate. Those can get pretty heated. What are people saying?
Well, on the side of formal education, the main points are the structure, the access to expert resources.
Yeah, having a teacher to guide you, that can be helpful.
And don't forget about networking. Meeting other students, professors, building those connections, that can open doors later on.
Good point. But what about the autodidact side? What are their arguments?
They talk a lot about the freedom to learn at your own pace.
Right. You're not stuck on someone else's schedule.
Exactly. And of course, the cost. Traditional education can be super expensive.
Yes, student loans are no joke.
And then there's the motivation factor. When you're choosing what to learn, something you're truly passionate about.
It's got to be easier to stay engaged.
Right. But it doesn't have to be an either situation.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
One of the most interesting perspectives on that forum is this idea of combining the best of both worlds.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think about going to university, but approaching it with that autodidact mindset.
So you're still in the university setting,
But you're driving your own learning, using the resources and guidance when you need them, but not being limited by the curriculum.
I like that. It's like having a support system, but also the freedom to explore your own interests.
Exactly. Find that balance, that sweet spot. But, one of the big reasons people are drawn to self-directed learning,
What's that?
it's that potential to learn faster, more efficiently.
Ooh, yeah. Time is precious. And speaking of efficiency, we came across this amazing example in our research, Scott H. Young's MIT challenge. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
This guy, he basically decided to teach himself the entire 4-year MIT computer science curriculum. Understatement. But the crazy thing is, he did it in less than a year.
Wow. A 4-year degree crammed into 1 year. That's next level. How did he pull that off?
Well, it
Took a lot of discipline, that's for sure. But he didn't just cram information. He used a technique called topic threading.
Topic threading. Okay, that's a new one. What is that?
It's actually something jazz musicians use.
Wait, jazz musicians? I'm not seeing the connection here.
They practice these individual musical ideas, little riffs or melodies, all separately, and then they figure out how to weave them together into a song.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So,
Yeah.
Young, he applied that same principle to learning computer science.
Right. Instead of just memorizing facts, he focused on understanding how different concepts connected to each other.
Building that mental framework.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just accumulating isolated bits of information.
That's brilliant. It's like learning to see the forest and the trees.
Yeah, the big picture, but also the details.
But let's be real. Not everyone can dedicate a whole year to learning one thing, like Young did. What about those of us who are just starting out with self-directed learning? What are some baby steps we can take to kind of develop those autodidact muscles?
One of the articles we found actually gives some really solid advice for aspiring autodidacts. And step 1, it's all about becoming resourceful.
Okay, resourceful. What does that mean in this context?
Thinking beyond the usual, like textbooks and lectures.
So where else do you go for knowledge?
You could explore online libraries. For one, connect with experts, maybe through online forums. There's so much out there.
Oh yeah, the internet is a gold mine. But it's also easy to get lost down those rabbit holes.
True. That's why being resourceful is so important. You got to know how to find what you need, evaluate it, and make it work for you.
Okay, that makes sense. What else? What other advice does this article give?
Consistency is key.
Ah, the dreaded C word.
I know, but hear me out. Self-directed learning, it thrives on routine.
So like making a schedule,
Yeah.
sticking to it.
Exactly. Set aside specific time for learning and try to make it a regular thing, even when life gets crazy.
Ugh, that's the hard part.
It is, but that's where passion comes in, right? If you're truly excited about what you're learning.
It's easier to make time for it.
And that brings us to the third piece of advice. Nurture your curiosity. Figure out what really lights you up, what makes you want to learn more, and dive into those topics.
Swallow those passion.
Exactly. Genuine interest, that's the fuel that'll keep you going.
I love that. It's about finding the joy in learning, not just chasing some outcome.
Right. The journey itself is the reward.
Okay, before we go too far down that philosophical road, I actually stumbled across a connection between self-directed learning and something totally unexpected. Effective delegation.
Delegation? Wait, that's like a management thing, right?
Yeah, but one of the articles we found, it talks about how important it is to trust others to complete tasks their own way.
Okay.
As long as the work gets done well, the how doesn't really matter.
And you're connecting that to,
Well, it made me think about how autodidacts are all about self-reliance.
oh yeah, I see it now.
Figuring things out independently, even if it's messy sometimes, and good delegators, they do the same thing. They empower others to learn by doing.
Interesting parallel.
But let's bring it back to the individual learner. We've talked a lot about theory, the psychology of it all, but how do you actually translate all this knowledge into action?
That's where this YouTube video, Armani Talks, comes in. He makes a really strong case for the role of experiences in self-directed learning.
Okay, experiences. How do those fit in?
Think about it like baking a cake. In the traditional education model, theory is the cake itself.
Okay, the cake. I like cake.
Reasoning, that's the frosting.
Frosting.
And experiences, they're like the sprinkles on top. Nice
Wow.
to have, but not essential.
Got it. But then you're saying in the autodidacts world,
Experiences become the cake.
whoa, a cake made of experiences.
Reasoning is still the frosting and the theory, just the sprinkles.
Wow, that's a tasty analogy. So you're saying autodidacts, they put more emphasis on doing rather than just knowing.
Right. They understand you don't really learn something until you put it into practice.
It's about experimenting, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes.
Yeah, and refining your understanding through, hands-on experience.
That's empowering, though. Like, don't just sit around reading about it. Go do it.
Exactly. Get
Okay.
your hands dirty.
This has been super fascinating, but honestly, my brain is starting to feel full.
It's a lot to take in.
Information overload. And I'm sure our listeners are feeling it too.
Yeah, it's probably time to hand it over to them for a bit.
Yeah.
So listeners, as we go deeper into this self-directed learning thing, what's clicking for you? Anything surprising?
Yeah. Out of everything we've talked about, what stands out, what makes you want to, like, grab a notebook and start exploring?
While you're thinking about that, I think there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to talk about. Goal setting.
Goals. It seems like everything comes back to goals these days.
Well, for good reason.
I get it, though. If you're in charge of your own learning, you need a direction, right?
Right. Otherwise, you're just lost in this, like, sea of information. No map, no compass. You might end up somewhere interesting, but...
You might not end up where you wanted to go.
Exactly. So, yeah, setting goals is crucial.
Okay, but how do we make sure we're setting the right kind of learning goals? Are we talking like SMART goals here, specific, measurable, all that jazz?
All that good stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Those principles definitely apply here too. Clear, actionable, all that. But I also think it's super important to connect those goals to, your values, your interests.
Ooh, that's a good point. So it's not just about like gaining knowledge for the sake of it. It's about how that knowledge can actually help you grow, maybe even make a difference in the world.
Exactly. When your learning goals are tied to something bigger, something you really care about.
It gives it more meaning.
Yeah, it's less about checking boxes and more about becoming, the best version of yourself.
Okay, I love that. It's like finding that sweet spot where your passions and your purpose kind of line. But even with the best intentions, even with those perfectly crafted SMART goals, self-directed learning can be, well, tough.
For sure.
There are going to be times when you hit a wall, you get discouraged. What advice would you give to someone who's, struggling to stay on track?
I think the first thing to remember is you're not alone in this. Every learner, even those like super experienced autodidacts, they face moments of doubt.
So it's normal to feel discouraged sometimes. It doesn't mean you're failing.
Not at all. It's just part of the process. What matters is how you deal with those feelings. One thing that can really help is breaking down those big, scary goals.
Into smaller chunks?
Exactly. Bite-sized pieces.
Works for everything. Writing, exercise, you name it.
Right. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by this, like, massive mountain you have to climb, focus on one step at a time.
Celebrate those little victories along the way.
Yeah. And each step, no matter how small, it builds momentum.
Keeps you moving forward.
And sometimes a simple change of scenery can help too.
Ooh, yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Get out of your usual study spot, maybe put on some music.
Or just take a walk, clear your head.
Totally. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain.
Right. And, sometimes all it takes is that fresh perspective to kind of spark that motivation again. But let's say you've tried all that, changed your environment, took a break, and you're still feeling stuck.
What do you do then? When you've, exhausted all your solo strategies?
That's when you tap into the power of community.
Ah, the power of community. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we work together.
Exactly. Reach out to other learners, maybe join some online forums, find a mentor.
Even just talking to a friend who shares your interests, it helps to know you're not alone in this journey.
Right. And speaking of community, we've got all these different sources here, touching on all these different aspects of self-directed learning.
Articles, definitions, forum discussions, even that YouTube video about the importance of experiences, it's a lot to process.
It is. But I think what's really fascinating is how these ideas are all, converging. We've got stuff from education, psychology, even the arts.
It's like a symphony of ideas, all harmonizing around this central theme of self-directed learning.
I love that analogy. And what ties it all together, I think, is this emphasis on human potential. This belief that anyone, no matter their background, they can achieve amazing things if they take charge of their own learning.
That's pretty inspiring.
It is. It's about breaking down those barriers, those limiting beliefs, empowering individuals. But okay, let's get practical for a second. We've talked about the why, the big picture stuff.
Right. Why self-directed learning is so important.
But what about the HOW? How do we actually make the most of this approach? What are some concrete tips?
Give us the goods.
Well, one of the sources we talked about earlier, the one about delegation.
The management article.
Yeah, that one actually offers some surprising insights that can apply to self-directed learning too.
Wait, really? I'm not seeing the connection.
It talks about the importance of setting clear expectations, providing regular feedback, and celebrating successes.
Okay, but how does that translate to someone who's learning independently? There's no boss, no teacher to give you feedback.
That's where self-accountability comes in. You become your own boss, in a way.
So you're saying even though you're learning solo, you should still set deadlines, track your progress, find ways to get feedback on your work.
Exactly. Be proactive. Don't just passively consume information.
Engage with it, apply it, put it to the test.
Right. And as for feedback, there are ways to get that even when you're learning on your own. Join online communities, participate in forums, maybe share your work with friends, mentors.
Ooh, or even just use those online resources that give you feedback like quizzes or practice exercises.
There you go. It's all about being creative, finding what works for you.
So we're building our own personalized learning ecosystem.
I like that. Yeah. And I think that's what makes self-directed learning so exciting. It's flexible, it's adaptable. You're not limited by someone else's curriculum or teaching style.
You're in the driver's seat.
And that's powerful. But okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Procrastination. We all struggle with it, right?
Oh, tell me about it. I'm a pro at procrastination, but how do you fight it, especially when you're the one setting the deadlines?
Well, I think the first step is understanding that procrastination, it's usually a symptom of something deeper.
Ooh, deep thoughts. So it's not just about being lazy or lacking discipline.
Right. It could be fear, anxiety, maybe even perfectionism holding you back, or sometimes just not being clear enough about your goals.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you find yourself constantly putting things off, maybe it's time to do some self-reflection, figure out what's really going on.
Exactly. Get to the root of it. Once you understand why you're procrastinating, it's easier to come up with strategies to, overcome it.
So like if you're procrastinating because you're scared of failing, maybe break that big goal down into smaller, less scary steps.
There's that bite-sized chunk strategy again.
It's a classic for a reason.
Oh.
But what about when you're just like plain old distracted? So many things vying for our attention these days. How do you stay focused?
It's all about creating a distraction-free environment.
Easier said than done, right?
Well, start by identifying your triggers. What are the things that pull you away from your learning? Social media, email, that endless scroll.
Ugh, yes. All of the above.
Once you know what they are, you can start to, minimize their impact. Turn off notifications, put your phone on airplane mode.
Find that quiet space where you can really concentrate. It's like creating a little sanctuary for your brain.
I like that, yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment. Maybe you need noise-canceling headphones or a white noise machine, whatever helps you get in the zone.
It's all about finding what works for you. But speaking of works, how do you actually measure progress in self-directed learning? I mean, there's no report card, no grades. How do you know if you're, succeeding?
That's a great question, and there's no single right answer. But I think it starts with defining what success means to you.
So going back to those SMART goals, making sure they're measurable.
Exactly. If your goal is to learn a new language, maybe success means being able to have a simple conversation.
Okay, that's a good concrete goal. But what about those goals that are more big picture, like developing a skill or expanding your knowledge in a certain field?
It can be harder to measure those, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe you could create a portfolio of your work or track your progress over time.
So if you're learning to code, you could keep a log of all the projects you've completed, the new languages you've mastered.
Right. Make your learning visible.
It's like creating a map of your learning journey. But even with the best map, there are going to be times when you hit a plateau.
Those plateaus, they're a normal part of learning, but they can be so frustrating. It's like you're putting in the effort but not seeing any results.
Totally. It makes you want to give up.
I know. But it's important to remember, learning isn't always linear. Some days you'll make huge leaps forward. Other days, it'll feel like you're barely moving.
So it's okay to have those ups and downs.
Yeah, it's all part of the process. The key is not to get discouraged. See those plateaus as an opportunity to, reevaluate your approach. Maybe try something new.
Get feedback from others.
Exactly.
So embrace the journey, even the bumpy parts.
Because that's where the real growth happens.
Okay, let's talk about the long game. How do you keep that momentum going over time?
How do you make self-directed learning a habit, something you do for life?
Yeah, not just a one-time project.
Well, I think it starts with cultivating a love of learning, just for the pure joy of it.
Not for a grade, not for a job, just because you love to learn.
Right. It's about tapping into that natural curiosity we all have. What are you passionate about? What makes you excited to learn more?
Follow those passions, those sparks of interest.
Yeah, and see where they lead you. Let your curiosity be your guide.
It's like rediscovering that childlike sense of wonder. seeing learning as an adventure, not a chore.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to branch out, try new things. You never know what might spark a new passion.
Or lead you down a totally unexpected path.
No.
Okay, let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. What are some concrete habits or routines that can help make self-directed learning a sustainable part of our lives?
One thing I find super helpful is scheduling dedicated learning time into my week.
Oh, there's that scheduling word again. I knew it.
I know, but it really does help. Treat it like any other important appointment.
Block it out in your calendar, set reminders.
Make it non-negotiable.
But what if you just can't find a big chunk of time to dedicate to learning every week? Life gets busy.
Start small. Even 15 minutes a day can add up.
It's all about consistency,
Yeah.
building that habit.
Right. And another thing that can help is creating a dedicated learning space.
Ooh, a learning space. I
Okay.
love that idea. But what if you don't have a lot of room?
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. A desk, a corner in your living room, even a comfy chair in your favorite coffee shop.
It's about having a place where you can focus, right?
Exactly. A place where you can minimize distractions.
A sanctuary for your brain.
I love that.
Yeah.
But, creating that physical space is just one part of it. There's also the mental side.
Right. How do you stay motivated when you're the one in charge?
That's where realistic expectations come in.
Okay, what does that mean in the context of self-directed learning?
It's about being kind to yourself, recognizing that learning takes time.
We're not all going to become experts overnight.
Right. Celebrate those small wins. Don't beat yourself up when you make mistakes.
Mistakes are just learning opportunities in disguise.
Exactly.
It's about enjoying the journey, not just focusing on the destination.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Reach out for support when you need it, connect with other learners, find a mentor.
Community is everything.
It really is. Sharing your learning journey with others can make it so much more enjoyable. But we've talked about a lot of practical stuff today. Goal setting, active recall, finding resources, building community.
Our brains are full.
I know, right? But I want to end this part of our deep dive with a slightly bigger question. What does it all mean? Why should we even care about this self-directed learning stuff?
Ooh, getting philosophical.
I think it goes beyond just like learning a new skill or getting a better job.
It's about something bigger.
It's about developing this mindset of lifelong learning.
Always growing, always evolving.
Exactly. And in a world that's changing so fast.
Where technology is constantly advancing, new jobs are emerging.
The ability to learn and adapt, that's more valuable than ever. Self-directed learning gives you that power.
The power to shape your own future.
And that's a powerful thing. Imagine a world where everyone embraced that idea.
A world where everyone embraces that power to learn, to shape their own future. I like that.
It's a powerful vision. A world where, curiosity is celebrated.
Where learning is just woven into everyday life, not just something you do in school.
Exactly. Lifelong learning. And honestly, I think we're getting closer to that vision.
Really? You think so?
Yeah. Think about all the tools and resources we have now. The internet has made information so much more accessible.
True. Online courses, open source textbooks, virtual communities. It's mind-boggling, the amount of stuff out there.
It really is. The possibilities are limitless.
But, okay, that can also be a problem, right? Too many options. It's overwhelming. How do you even know where to start?
That's where community comes in.
Ah, yes, our trusty community.
It's not just about accessing information. It's about connecting with other learners.
People who share your passions, who can, push you to be better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They challenge you. They support you. They inspire you.
Community is key. But how do you actually build that support network? Where do you find these awesome learning buddies?
Well, online forums and communities, those are a great place to start.
Oh, yeah, the online rabbit holes. I've lost many hours in those. But I've also met some amazing people, discovered resources I never would have found on my own.
It's incredible how the internet can bring people together, right, around shared interests, no matter where they are in the world. And those online spaces can be a real source of, support.
A sense of belonging.
Yeah, and a place to ask questions, share resources, get feedback on your work.
Like having a global network of study buddies.
Exactly. But don't limit yourself to the online world. There's also your local community.
Right. Libraries, community centers, adult education programs.
All kinds of opportunities to explore new things and meet people who are, on that same learning journey.
Libraries are the best. Such a wealth of knowledge, and usually for free. And those adult ed courses, those can be fun.
They are. A great way to step outside your comfort zone, try something new.
And speaking of stepping outside your comfort zone, what about mentorship? Finding someone who's already achieved what you want to achieve.
Mentorship can be so valuable.
But how do you even find a mentor? It seems kind of intimidating.
It can be,
Mm.
but I think the best way is to start with your existing network.
Okay, so look around, see who you already know.
Exactly. Think about people who work in fields that interest you or who have skills you'd like to develop. Reach out to them, have a conversation.
You never know who might be willing to share their knowledge and experience.
Right. And, mentorship doesn't have to be this formal thing. Sometimes the best learning happens organically through those casual conversations with people you admire.
Just soaking up their wisdom. Be a
Hey.
sponge. But okay, let's say you've found a mentor, you've joined some online communities, you're taking a course at the local library.
Mm.
What's the key to making those connections really count? How do you make sure you're getting the most out of them?
I think it comes down to cultivating those qualities of a good learner.
Okay, what does that look like?
Be humble, be curious, and be willing to, contribute.
Humility, curiosity, and generosity.
Exactly. Approach those relationships with a genuine desire to learn, but also be ready to share your own knowledge and insights. It's a two-way street.
I love that. Everyone has something to teach and something to learn. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Strategies, resources, the importance of community.
We even got a little philosophical there for a minute.
We did, but before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to that bigger question. What's the point of all this? Why is self-directed learning so important?
I think it goes way beyond just acquiring knowledge or skills. It's about developing this, mindset.
Hmm.
A mindset of lifelong learning, always growing, always evolving.
It's about recognizing that learning isn't just something we do in school, it's a part of who we are as humans.
Exactly. And I truly believe that this mindset is essential for navigating, this crazy, ever-changing world we live in.
The jobs of tomorrow, they might not even exist today.
Right. The skills we need, they're always evolving. So we have to be adaptable.
Always learning, always growing.
Exactly. Self-directed learning, it gives you the tools to take control, to shape your own future.
Be the architect of your own life.
Yes. Design your own learning path, build the future you want to see. And I think that's something worth striving for.
I agree. It's a vision that gives me hope. A world where everyone has that opportunity to learn, to grow, to reach their full potential.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. Well, today we're going all in on video.
Oh,
Yeah, you got it. We're talking Handbrake, this open source video tool, It seems like it's caught your eye.
I've seen it around.
Yeah, people are comparing it to other software, So obviously something's got everyone buzzing about this Handbrake thing.
Definitely piques some interest.
Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to figure out what exactly makes Handbrake so special.
Sounds like a plan.
Why is everyone so excited about it being free?
The price is definitely right.
Yeah, and most importantly, how can it be like a secret weapon, for our listeners out there, especially if they're running a small business or maybe they've got a startup
Right.
or if they just, love learning new things like we do.
Always up for something new.
So what's the deal with Handbrake?
Well, all this excitement about Handbrake, it's totally justified. It's a powerful tool, lets you change those video files, pretty much any format you can think of,
No way.
into something you can actually use. And you're right, totally free.
Okay, so free is always good, but you know me.
A little skeptical.
I gotta ask, is there a catch? Are there limitations, or maybe they've got features hidden behind like a paywall or something?
Nope, no catch. Handbrake is really, truly free. No
Yeah.
strings attached. It's a total game changer for anyone, really, who wants to make high-quality videos without breaking the bank on software.
That's massive, especially for small businesses or if you're just starting out. Imagine making those professional looking videos without the crazy software costs. That's a huge win, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in the stuff you sent, a lot of people are comparing Handbrake to this FFmpeg thing. What is that? Is that another video tool?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Think of FFmpeg like the ultimate video editing powerhouse.
Wow.
Incredibly powerful and flexible. I mean, you can do almost anything you can dream up with video.
No kid.
But here's the thing. FFmpeg is command line based, meaning no fancy buttons, no menus. It's all code.
So you got to be like a coding wizard.
Pretty much. You need to know how to code to really use it well.
So basically, Handbrake is the user-friendly version, right? For those of us who, aren't exactly coding ninjas.
Exactly. Handbrake has this simple visual interface, easy for anyone to use, even if you're a total beginner. Think of it like this. If Handbrake is like a Swiss Army knife for video editing,
Okay, I like that.
FFmpeg is like a whole workshop full of specialized tools.
Oh, wow.
Both have their uses. It just depends, what you need and how much experience you have.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like Handbrake really strikes that balance, though, between being powerful and easy to use. But one thing that really stood out to me from all this stuff you sent, Handbrake's not just about converting video formats. There's way more to it, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what's going on under the hood?
One of Handbrake's best features, video compression. It can take these huge video files and make them smaller, more manageable, and it doesn't sacrifice too much quality.
So that's how people get those videos onto YouTube or share them online without it taking forever to load.
Exactly. And it's not just about shrinking file sizes. Handbrake can also optimize videos,
What do you mean?
make them look their best on specific devices, like your smartphone or tablet, or even on a streaming platform. And they've got these things called presets, which are pre-configured settings for all kinds of different situations.
Presets. So it's like having a video expert whispering in your ear, like, hey, use these settings, they're going to work great.
Exactly.
But what about those of us who like to tinker a bit,
Uh-huh.
have more control over things? Does Handbrake let you do that?
Absolutely. The presets are great if you want to do things quick and easy, but Handbrake also gives you total control. You can dive into those nitty-gritty settings like resolution, frame rate, and codecs if you want.
Okay, now we're talking. Some of those terms, though, they're a bit technical for me. How does Handbrake actually make videos look good, for those of us who aren't, like, tech wizards?
Sure. Let's start with resolution. That's basically how many pixels are in your video. More pixels, more detail, more sharpness.
Gotcha.
Then there's frame rate, which is how smooth the motion looks, and codecs. Well, those are like the language your computer uses to understand and play video. The cool thing about Handbrake is that it takes all this complex tech stuff and makes it simple. You don't need to be a video engineer to use it.
That's good to hear. So Handbrake translates our creative vision into a language that our devices can understand. That's pretty awesome.
It is. And one example that shows how powerful Handbrake can be is how it uses something called a rate factor.
Okay, yeah, I saw that in some of those articles. What's so special about this rate factor?
It manages the balance between quality and file size. Imagine shrinking a 2 GB video file down to 500 millibit using a rate factor of 23.
Yeah.
People watching wouldn't even notice a difference in quality. That's the kind of magic Handbrake can do.
Hold on, so I can make my videos a lot smaller, but the quality stays good. That changes everything.
It's pretty incredible. And that's one of the many reasons Handbrake has become so popular. It gives you so much control over your videos, but without all the complexity.
Wow, okay. Shrinking a 2 GB file down to 500 millibit and keeping the quality?
Yeah,
That's like some serious video voodoo.
that's impressive.
But let's back up for a sec. Tell me more about this rate factor thing. It sounds like a secret weapon for, like, video ninjas.
It's definitely one of Handbrake's most powerful features.
Yeah.
The rate factor, or RF for short, it controls how much Handbrake compresses your video. And remember, compression, it's all about finding that sweet spot,
Okay.
reducing file size without killing the quality.
Right, because nobody wants to watch a video that looks like it was filmed on a potato.
Right.
Even if it loads super fast.
Exactly. And that's where RF comes in. It gives you super fine control.
Oh, okay.
A lower RF value means you get less compression. So you get a higher quality video, but the file size is going to be bigger.
So lower RF is kind of like when you pick that high quality setting on a streaming service, right?
Yeah.
And then higher RF is like data saver mode.
That's a great way to think about it. And with Handbrake, you get to choose. Pick the perfect RF value for whatever you're doing. Remember that example, RF of 23?
Yeah, the one that's supposed to be the best of both worlds. Smaller file, but you don't lose much quality.
Right. It's a popular choice for a reason.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about Handbrake is you can play around with different RF values.
Oh, cool.
See what works best for your videos.
I like that. Okay, so let's say I'm making a video for my website. Quality's super important there.
Right.
So I might use a lower RF. But if I'm just sharing a quick tip or something on social media, I could crank that RF up, keep the file size small so it uploads faster.
You got it. That's what's so great about Handbrake. That doesn't limit you. Gives you that freedom to experiment,
Yeah.
Learn, create those videos that are perfect for what you need.
I love having that control. But, okay, full disclosure, I'm still a little lost on the whole codec thing.
Ah, codecs.
Yeah, it sounds kind of intimidating.
It seems that way, but they're really not that bad. Think of a codec like a translator for your video. It takes the raw video data and compresses it,
Okay.
puts it into a format that your computer or your device can understand. so it can play it.
So it's like the language of video,
Yeah,
and like different devices speak different video
we
languages.
got it. And there are so many different video codecs out there.
Really?
Each one has its pros and cons. Some are good at squeezing the video down.
Okay.
Some are better at keeping the quality high. And some are just, more widely used. They work with more devices.
That makes sense. But how do we know which codec to use? Does Handbrake, like, help us with that?
Oh, totally. Handbrake is like a multilingual video expert. Supports a huge range of codecs, and it can even suggest the best one for you. And, you guessed it, those handy presets we keep talking about. They usually have the right codec already picked out.
Those presets are like little life rafts in this sea of video tech.
Right.
So let's say I'm making a video for YouTube, Handbrake will automatically pick a codec that plays nice with YouTube.
Exactly. Takes care of all the technical stuff behind the scenes, so you don't have to worry about it.
Awesome. This is starting to make sense now. Are there like any codecs that are super popular
Yeah.
or really versatile, ones that, we should keep in mind?
That's a good question. There are definitely some big names in the codec world that you'll see a lot. One is H.264, also called ADC.
Okay.
It's a good balance of quality and file size, and it's pretty much compatible with everything. It's the go-to for videos online, or if you're playing them on a bunch of different devices.
H.2654. All right, I've seen that one around. What else is there?
Another popular one is HEVC, which is also called H.265. It's newer, and it gives you even better compression than H.264.
Really?
So you can get smaller files and still keep the quality high.
Smaller files, better quality. HEVC sounds like a winner. Is there, like, a downside?
The main thing is it's not as widely supported as H.264,
Oh, okay.
especially on older devices.
Right.
But newer devices and streaming platforms are using it more and more because it's so efficient.
So if I want, like, everyone to be able to watch my video no matter what device they're using, H.264 is probably the safer bet.
Probably.
But if I'm going for, like, the best quality and small file sizes, and I know my audience has the latest gadgets, then HEVC is the way to go.
Exactly. And of course, Handbrake can handle both of these codecs. It even has presets for them, so you don't even have to think about it.
This is great. I feel like we're, like, cracking the code video here.
Oh, getting there.
But I'm realizing we've been so deep in the technical stuff.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about how all this applies to, different people.
Right.
Like, how can they use Handbrake in their own lives?
Yeah, let's bring it back to our listeners. Show them how Handbrake can help them. So let's switch gears and talk about some real-world situations.
Love it. Let's start with small businesses.
Okay.
How can Handbrake help them make awesome videos? Ones that can compete with those big budget productions.
That's where Handbrake really shines.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a small business owner, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a ton of resources.
Right.
You want to make those cool marketing videos, product demos, maybe even online courses, attract new customers, grow your business.
Right, but those fancy video editing programs, they can cost a fortune.
Yeah.
And hiring a whole production crew, that's just not realistic for a lot of small businesses.
Exactly. And that's where Handbrake comes in. You can make those professional-looking videos without spending a ton of money.
Wow.
Convert your existing videos to different formats, compress them so they're easy to share online,
Oh, okay.
even optimize them for different social media platforms.
So you could take a video you shot on your phone, make it look amazing in Handbrake, and suddenly you've got this super engaging marketing video.
Exactly. And it's so easy to use, you don't need any special skills to get great results.
That's so cool. It's like leveling the playing field, right? Small businesses can compete with the big guys without going broke.
It is. And it's not just marketing videos. Handbrake can also be a game changer for entrepreneurs who are making online courses or like training videos.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Online learning is huge these days.
It is.
Handbrake can help entrepreneurs make those high-quality videos.
Absolutely. You can use Handbrake to shrink down those long lecture videos.
Okay.
Make them smaller so they're easier to download, easier to stream.
That's super important, especially for students who might not have the fastest internet.
Definitely. Accessibility is key. Handbrake makes it so easy to create video content that everyone can watch, no matter what technology they're using.
This is incredible. It feels like Handbrake is more than just a video tool. It's like a tool for creativity, innovation and bringing people together.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And we've only scratched the surface. In the next part, we'll dive into even more creative ways to use Handbrake, and we'll give you some ideas to get those video juices flowing.
I can't wait. Until then, keep those creative sparks flying. We'll see you back here soon for the grand finale of our Handbrake deep dive.
Hey everyone, really excited about this one
Yeah.
because we're going to be exploring two powerhouses you might not know about yet,
Okay.
BizTalks,
A
Social,
Bible of.
and the Business Ecosystems Network, or BEN. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of both of those,
Well,
actually.
no.
Yeah, they've been turning heads lately.
Yeah.
And not just for the catchy names. There's
know.
real substance to what they're doing to support these micro businesses,
Yeah.
which anyone who's tried it knows
Right.
is no walk in the park.
No walk in the park is an understatement. I was looking at the research that you sent over, and get this, over 80% of micro businesses in the U.S. have 0 employees.
Wow.
That's a lot of solopreneurs just battling it out.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility on one person's shoulders. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
What else?
I mean, imagine trying to compete in a market dominated by these huge corporations.
Right.
But you're a one-person show.
Yeah.
You're the marketing department, you're customer service, you're the accountant.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes all before you've had your morning coffee.
Right, exactly.
So it's no wonder that so many of these micro businesses struggle to break through.
It's like trying to juggle chainsaws
right.
while you're running a marathon.
Hmm.
It's impressive if you can do it,
It is impressive.
but also probably a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So where does Ben come into play with all this?
Well, I think of them as a cross between like a supportive community and a strategic alliance. They're all about connecting micro businesses with each other
Okay.
and providing them with the resources they need to actually thrive.
Gotcha.
And that's where BizTalk Social comes in.
Okay, so BizTalk Social is like Ben's secret weapon.
Kind of. It's a platform designed specifically for these micro business owners
Okay.
to connect with each other,
Uh-huh.
to collaborate, and to learn from each other.
Okay.
And unlike your typical like social media platform, BizTalk, Social is all about quality over quantity.
I like that.
They've created these really focused ecosystems where you can connect with people in your specific niche.
I'm really liking this ecosystem thing.
Yeah.
Happening like at the local level.
Right. I love that.
And where it feels like entrepreneurship is accessible
Totally.
to anyone, no
Yeah.
matter like, their background, their resources, any of that.
That's a world I want to live in.
Right. That sounds pretty great to me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the exciting thing is,
Yeah.
with initiatives like Ben
Yeah.
and BizTalk,
Yeah.
Social, like gaining all this momentum,
Yeah.
that vision is becoming more and more attainable every day.
Absolutely.
So let's keep the conversation going.
Yes, please.
Support your local businesses,
Yes.
connect with other entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and let's build that brighter
Let's do
future
it.
together. All right, welcome back for the final part of our Handbrake deep dive.
The grand finale.
You got it. We've talked about how Handbrake can be a real game changer for businesses,
Right.
entrepreneurs, all that. But you know who I think is going to appreciate this the most?
That.
The Autodidacts, the, lifelong learners.
Ah, yes.
Anyone out there who's always, soaking up new knowledge and skills.
Always learning.
All the time, right.
Right.
Handbrake is like a dream come true for those folks.
Yeah.
Think about it. You're diving into a new subject,
Sure.
taking online courses, watching those documentaries, maybe even attending like virtual workshops. You're building this amazing library of educational videos on your computer.
It's a treasure trove. But video files, they can be massive. Like they gobble up storage space, And sometimes it's a pain to even access them when you're out and about.
know what you mean.
Handbrake is your new best friend here.
Oh, yeah.
It can shrink those huge files down to size.
No kidding.
And you don't lose much quality. That means you can store way more videos on your devices, access them from anywhere, and even share them with your fellow learners without, clogging up their inboxes.
That's a lifesaver.
It really is. It's like having a portable video library that fits right in your pocket.
That's a great image.
I know, right? Perfect for anyone who loves to learn. And get this.
What's that?
Handbrake can actually help you optimize those videos, for different learning situations. So let's say you're watching a lecture on your phone while you're, commuting.
Okay.
You can actually use Handbrake to create a version that's specifically for mobile viewing. So you get that smooth playback, even if your internet connection isn't great.
No buffering.
No buffering, no more lag, no more interruptions. You're just in the flow, And what about those times when you want to go back and review a certain part of a video? Does Handbrake have any tricks for that?
Of course. Handbrake lets you create chapters in your videos.
Yeah.
So you can jump right to that specific part. You don't have to scrub through the whole thing.
That's awesome.
It's like a built-in table of contents.
Makes reviewing and remembering the materials so much easier.
Absolutely. And get this, Handbrake can even add subtitles to your videos.
Wow.
Makes them accessible for everyone, including folks who are deaf or hard of hearing.
That's fantastic. It's really great that Handbrake has thought of all these things.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And we can't forget about all those creative folks out there.
The artists.
The filmmakers, the YouTubers, the storytellers, the people using video to share their passions with the world. It's like Handbrake is giving them the tools to make those professional quality videos without, spending a ton of money.
Right. They could experiment, play around with different codecs, adjust the colors, even add special effects, enhance their storytelling.
It's mind-blowing that a free tool can do all that. It feels
Yeah.
like it's opening up the world of filmmaking to everyone, giving everyone a chance to share their stories.
It really is. And it's not just about those polished, finished products either. Handbrake is awesome for experimenting, just learning. You can try out different video editing techniques, play with the settings, see what works.
Like having a digital sandbox, right?
Right.
Where you can just let your creativity loose.
I like that.
I love that. But okay, before we get too carried away, let's bring it back to our listeners.
Right.
Let's do a quick recap of what we've learned about Handbrake.
Right.
Talked about a lot. But the main thing is that Handbrake is this super powerful, super versatile tool. Anyone can use it. Create, optimize, share your videos.
It's a game changer.
And it's free. It really shows you what's possible when people work together, share their knowledge. We've seen how helpful Handbrake can be for businesses, entrepreneurs, educators, lifelong learners, creative people.
Everyone.
It's a tool that knocks down those barriers, unlocks your potential, helps everyone tell their stories through video.
I love that.
It's been amazing exploring Handbrake with you.
It has.
I hope our listeners are feeling as fired up about it as I am.
Me too.
But before we go, I got to leave you with one last thought.
Okay, hit me.
Now that you've seen what Handbrake can do, what video project are you going to create? What story are you going to tell?
That's a great question. In the meantime, head over to handbrake.fr, download the tool, and just start playing around. You might surprise yourself.
And don't forget, there's a whole community of Handbrake users out there. They're ready to help, answer your questions, see your creations, learn from each other.
It's all about collaboration, trying new things, having fun creating something together.
This is Coded Conversations. We're signing off. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those creative sparks flying.
See you next time.